Okay, I just want to talk to you today about anarchy, what anarchy is, and why it's important you understand it. Because there's so many lies going on out there by the archonists. Some people call them statists or whatever. About how anarchy means mayhem, chaos, destruction, all kinds of nutbaggy ideas and concepts, and that all anarchists are basically incompetent boobs. That they can't be trusted, that they're off their rocker, I guess. Just all kinds of weird, insane concepts and ideas about what an anarchist is. And many people out there aren't helping clarify the matter any. It's because they won't look at things intelligently, logically, and reasonably. They just look at things out of fear and cowardice. The term anarchy is a Greek term. In the ancient Greece, there was the archons. They were a group of 7 rulers or governors. So an archon means a ruler or a governor. The anarchists were people who didn't like or support this concept of the archons, dictating to them, telling them how to live, what they should do, how they should do it. And so the archons started spreading out rumors that anarchists, anarchonists, were in fact unstable, uncontrollable, crazy, and insane. The archonists continued to produce this tale, this story and whatnot, and to belittle and diminish the anarchists' chances of freedom. Now, you might think that this is fine. I mean, anybody who goes against government and goes against external control and says that we should be free because, or should be told what to do, because if we weren't, we would all be acting in crazy, silly, stupid ways. First thing I have to say to that is that if you're one of those people that believes that if we weren't told what to do and we didn't follow orders from controllers called government or archons, that the world would be crazy, then that makes me question you yourself, because you're telling me that without being told what to do, you yourself would be crazy and insane and go around raping, murdering, pillaging. And when I say raping, I don't just mean the sexual rape. I mean similar things as to what we're doing to the planet, where we are currently raping the planet and such. If that's the way you are, then I really don't want anything to do with you. If that's not the way you are, then you would have no reason to suspect that everybody else is that way. It's kind of like when someone tells you, oh yeah, everybody around here is a thief. There's a bunch of thieves around here. Well, why would somebody say that? Are they confessing that they're a thief? If there are thieves, shouldn't they have found them, weeded them out, and gotten rid of them? So, if we didn't have rules, then everybody would act crazy and insane. You're saying that you would act crazy and insane if you didn't have an external controller. The reason you require an external controller is because you yourself don't understand the basic principles of the Christ, where he said, love thy neighbor as thyself. You don't understand the golden rule. You don't understand the inherent laws of the universe, which are infinite and in place, immutable. You don't understand anything. You just understand that you live in a very reptilian-based mindset, and that you yourself, and thus you propose that and impose that concept on other people, that everybody, like yourself, would go around just destroying everything, robbing, killing, murdering, stealing, whatever, whereas that's not true. Most people on a daily life, in their daily lives, most people are honest. They're try to live upright. They generally don't bother their neighbors. They don't want to be bothered themselves. They don't impose things on other people. Most people generally on a daily basis just go about their lives without bothering each other. And they aren't told by external forces and external entities how to go about doing it. There's not a fascist cop or a military guard standing behind them, following them around everywhere they go. They live their lives peaceably and uninterrupted of external affairs, external influences. They go about performing business. They go about performing, having their relationships and their friendships with friends, family, and lovers. And nobody's forcing any of that. Nobody's forcing any interaction with each other. It's all voluntary. And that's what anarchy really is. We live in an anarchist situation 90% of our lives. We go about doing things on a voluntary basis. We're not forced or imposed to do things in any manner caused by outside forces. But that is rapidly coming to an end because the Archonists, the people that think everybody would be nuts and insane if we weren't regulated by controllers in every aspect of our lives, the cowards that they are, they want external controllers to tell other people how to live. And so they hire and employ psychopathic, mentally unstable, emotionally challenged individuals to violently force their will on others. We call that concept government. And government, as most people can attest to, is out of control. I mean, even amongst the Archonists, you have people who say, well, we just need a smaller, more responsible government. We can't go without government. We need a smaller, more responsible government. Well, who are they going to be responsible to? Well, they're going to be responsible to the people. Well, obviously they're not. They never have in the past. They never will in the future. You're asking what never has and never will exist. A government that respects the people, a government that works for the people, a government that protects the people. That's not the purpose of government. Government has never ever had the intention or the purpose of protecting the people. And people that say that, I don't know where that concept came from. 20 years in the Canadian Forces, Air Element, I've never, ever was told or taught that the purpose I was there for and what I was doing was to defend the people or to defend the people's rights. What I was there for was to defend and protect the national interests. And where do those national interests come from? Well, right now they're being dictated by a guy that everybody loves. I mean, you can just tell it. All you gotta do is look on Facebook or go to CBC and check the news or anything. Everybody loves this guy, Justin Trudeau. He is Canada's current dictator. And this fall or next spring, in about a year, there's going to be another opportunity for you to all run off to the polls and cast your vote and say, here's who I want for my new leader, here's who I want for my new master, here's who I want as my new dictator. And you foolishly call that freedom. Because you think having a right to say, this guy's going to be my boss now, this guy's going to be my owner now, every 4 years, makes you free. The fact is, you're a slave. You're a slave in your own mind if you believe that. What you have to do is you have to recognize that you yourself, and only you yourself, has the right to tell you yourself how to live. That you yourself, and only you yourself, is accountable for your actions. That you yourself, and only you yourself, will be accountable to God, if you so believe, upon your ending in this world. No one else can take that for you. No one else can be responsible for your actions. Nuremberg Principle number 4 made it very clear when all of the Nazis in Germany tried to say, we were just following orders, that following orders is no excuse. Immoral actions of any and all kinds are immoral actions, and the individual committing those actions, not the one giving the orders, the ones committing those actions, are the ones that are responsible and liable for them. So, if you will not take responsibility for your actions, you will ultimately pay for it at some point in time down the road. If you don't believe this, just look at all of the health issues, mental health issues, and physical health issues of veterans around the world. Look at how many of them have violent tendencies after they get out. They're confused, they're angry, they're lost because they never took accountability for their own actions. They just followed orders from other people. And now that they're out for whatever reason, they retired after doing 20, 30 years. They served their time in the war and did their 4 or 5 years service to their country and felt that it was time to move on and get out. They were released for medical reasons or whatever the case may be. Once they're out, these people have a seriously difficult time readjusting, and many, in fact most, never do properly readjust to being normal, peaceful people. Not that there's many normal people in this world anyways. I mean, all you gotta do is look around and you can see people in general are insane. Just go into any major city during rush hour and watch the traffic, you'll realize people are insane. So, point is, what I'm trying to say is that anarchy requires great responsibility upon the individuals. And that's why it doesn't exist. No one wants to take personal responsibility. The reason anarchy requires great personal responsibility is because it requires an accountability. An accountability to higher moral standards. An accountability to the creative force of this universe. And I don't care what you want to call it. You can call it God, you can call it the ultimate force, you can call it the universe, whatever name you want to give it, it's irrelevant. Something had to have caused all this to be. Science and scientism is trying to find out what caused all this to be. Religions are trying to tell you who and what it is that caused all this to be. And philosophers, true philosophers, just accept that something exists that caused all this to be. You're going to be accountable to that at one point in time or another. There are immutable laws in the universe that exist, that have existed, they always will exist, and it doesn't matter how much you try and avoid them. And I'm not talking about statutes that nutbags in Parliament or the Senate or wherever write down on pieces of paper. I'm talking about actual immutable laws, such as the law of gravity, the law of cause and effect, the law of correspondence. These are all things that are absolute. You can't change them. You can't avoid them. You can't get around them. And if you learn these laws, understand fully these concepts and these laws, understand that everything you do today, or everything you neglect to do today, will have a consequence down the road. And no one is going to take that burden off your shoulders. You're going to have to face it yourself. Just following orders. Good law-abiding citizen. I'm going to vote so that I feel right, and in so doing, forcing other people to live lives against their own clear conscience, stealing from other people in the formation of taxes, and extortion through frickin' police activities. Every time a fucking cop stops a car, it's extortion. Extortion, according to the Criminal Code of Canada, is any action threatening force or violence, either with or without a firearm, causing a person to act against their will and do something that they would not normally do, is extortion. Cop stops someone on the side of the road, hits his lights. The guy wouldn't normally stop, but now he's fearing his life, fearing his safety, because he knows if he doesn't stop, the cop is going to call other cops and they're going to run him off the road. They're going to potentially kill him, definitely freaking cause physical damage to him and harm. So an extortive attack has already been commenced. From there, he's going to walk up to the side of your car. He's, in most countries nowadays, going to have a sidearm. And he's probably going to have his hand on that sidearm as he walks up and asks you to identify yourself, which you would not normally do. And he'll only accept certain forms of identification. Anything else is considered unacceptable. This is force and violence. It's extortion. It's criminal activity in accordance with the laws of the universe. But Archonists say this is a good thing because this helps us to be safe. It secures our freedom. There's a meme that says, in order to protect us from insane, psychopathic, violent murderers and thieves, we're going to hire psychopathic, violent murderers and thieves to tell us what to do. Or something along that lines. It's just, the concept is retarded. In order to fix this headache, I'm going to shoot myself in the head. And then the headache will go away. And I'll feel better. That's the insanity of this concept. Anarchy. Living peacefully, freely, voluntarily amongst your fellow men and women around you, fellow mankind, the whole fellow animals, this whole freaking planet, without having someone else tell you how to do it, when to do it, what to do, without excessively harvesting resources, whether it be oil, whether it be trees, whether it be animals, whether it be natural rocks and minerals. Being self-aware, self-conscious of what you're supporting and how you're supporting it. and how excessive this raping of the planet, raping of society, raping of the people is. When you comprehend that and choose to no longer support it and step away from it, then the only logical conclusion is that you must become an anarchist. You must study and learn what anarchy is. You must investigate and explore what the concepts of universal law is. Some people have called it natural laws. You can find it, and look it up on the internet under the term of the 7 Hermetic Principles. They go way back before ancient Egypt. They go way back before ancient Greece. And it's believed that Abraham, who came from the Chaldeans, the Chaldees, was one of the first teachers of these concepts. In the Egyptian tradition, they believe in a man named Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice great one. I don't think anybody actually believed him to be a literal human being, but rather a representative character, an icon of truth and knowledge, and a teacher of truth and knowledge. In Canada here, not too many years ago, we've never been a free country. Canada has never been a free country since the British came over and conquered and murdered and just about annihilated the indigenous peoples that were here. We've never been a free country. But just a few years ago, we had more freedoms than we have today. And the world is no more dangerous than it was 50, 100 years ago. There were psychopaths back then. There are more psychopaths today. There are more sane people today. Get rid of the indoctrination training that's going through your brain. Clean up your mind and learn to think intelligently and responsibly instead of just believing everything that somebody tells you. Critical thinking. If people did that en masse and just walked away from this insanity, then the insanity would die on its own. There would be no requirement for violence. There would be no requirement for revolution or wars. And all these activities going on in Europe, in South America, and around the globe that they're not telling you about. They're not telling you about the people protesting violently in Belize. They're not telling you about people protesting violently in France. They're not telling you about any of these things. Because they want you to believe that they have everything under control and that you are safe because they are there. Where nothing is further from the truth. You are more endangered because they are there. Because they are the ones that are going to be using the violent forces against you, should you refuse to comply. Taking the cowardly way and saying, well, then I guess we must comply, otherwise I'm going to get hurt. It's the most pathetic, worthless thing I've ever seen. You don't even if that's your mentality, that's the way you think, you don't even deserve to live. And I'm pretty sure that the Creator will rectify that. The forces of nature will rectify that. When the jackboots come kicking your door in, firing their weapons, tear gas burning through the house, shooting your jogs, grounding you up, and throwing you into camps, what they want to call protection camps. That's what Hitler called them too. That's what Stalin called them too. They were for the security and safety of all involved. When that happens, you'll realize that being an Archonist and supporting these people was the wrong decision. And it's the wrong way to go about living your life.